And that something just might change your life and actually make a damn difference in my life.
You're going to want to pay attention to this one.
Hey everybody, David Niggle. You're going to love this episode.
Everybody's a very powerful manifester, but you manifest what you're in harmony with now. If you want to manifest something different, you have to change what you're in harmony with. You have to get everything lined up inside of yourself where it's in integrity with itself, and then it just comes right into your life. There's nothing difficult about it at all. The problem that we have with money is that we have so many conflicting ideas around it. And then there's this, not only are there conflicting ideas around it, but we also have a need for it. Most of us in the educated world live in a society where you're in deep trouble if you don't have a substantial amount of money to fulfill the needs that you have in your life. And all you have to do is go to a third world country and see what that looks like. I've been to a number of them, and it's not pretty. I mean, it's very, very difficult when you're living on that edge of survival. That's why we talked about the 7 levels of awareness. Very difficult. But if we're gonna change our levels of awareness, we have to change our levels of understanding. That just seems to make sense, yeah? So we have to change the way that we think about money so that we can manifest it easily and effortlessly. And I also want to throw into that idea that when I say manifest, I'm also incorporating the idea of cause and effect. Money manifests like anything else based on cause and effect. It's not just a vibrational state of being. It's a vibrational state of being while you're doing the cause and effect of what brings money into your life. I hope everybody really understands that. Because if the thing that I want to drive home there is you have to be doing the thing on a regular basis that brings money into your life or your business. If you're not doing the specific thing that brings it in, you may be doing something that's worthwhile or needs to be done, but you'll wonder why you're struggling with money. And it just happens to be one of the places in business where you see people procrastinate the most or get distracted the most. It's like, why? You're in business to make money. We know that. Why are you getting so distracted about doing the things that actually bring the money into the business? Well, because we have so many conflicting ideas around it. It requires us to do things that make us feel vulnerable, that our subconscious mind doesn't know if we're doing something right or wrong. It all depends on what your belief system is and what your exposure around the idea of money was as a child. So it's very, very important that you put a considerable amount of time into changing that and getting all of your conflicting ideas around it out of your subconscious mind.
This episode, probably the most mentioned book throughout the years of doing this podcast and sitting across from you, has to be The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. Yeah. And that's what this episode is basically pulling from. And I love how you talked about sitting down and reading that book for the first time and how emotional of an experience it was for you. Yeah. So what is it about The Science of Getting Rich that unlocked so much potential in you back in the day?
As I'm experiencing life, and my parents get divorced and my grandparents die, and there's drama here and drama there, and I'm not making good decisions, and I start to move up through all of the well-known problems that I've talked about on the podcast and different seminars and stuff. I have this experience where I triple my income, and I'm like, okay, I need to learn something. This is pointing a direction for me. So I'm out there and I'm learning. This question, though, is still in the back of my mind, right? Like there's something we don't understand. Well, as I'm learning and experiencing things, I'm getting this sense more and more that there really is a different side to all of this. And all I could tell you, the best way I can explain it, it was just a feeling that I had inside of me that the way we experience life was kind of backwards. Like I really did think there was an abundance, but I never wanted to say anything about it because It didn't jive with what everybody else thought, right? Anyway, long story short, I'm introduced to this book for about 2-year period of time. I know about the book. I'm diligently searching for different material. I thought the book was about economics. So I didn't even pick it up and look at it, right? People will be like, have you read The Science of Getting Rich yet? No, I'm not interested in how you save money and where do you invest it. And that's what I thought the book was. One day I pick up the book and I'm like, oh, this isn't what that's about. This is about kind of what I'm looking for. So I take it home and I sit down, and as I start to read it, the way Wattles wrote that book, it was like cha-ching, 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 all the pieces in my mind that were there but confused and I didn't know what place to put them in to make it work. It was like everything lined up that afternoon in my mind. And all of a sudden, I saw how the universe worked. And it brought me to tears, because what I thought from when I was a little kid, even though I couldn't put it into the correct language or even the correct questions, I found out it was true, and that it just all fell into place. And it was extremely emotional. It was like I was realizing something that I always knew, but I didn't know. You know what I mean? Like it was in me, but I wasn't conscious of it. And I felt like a part of me woke up that was dormant or something. So that's about the best way that I can explain it. But it was very emotional. I cried on that couch that afternoon.
Well, and it makes sense that you remember exactly where you were the first time you cracked it and got into it wholly, because it did leave such an impressionable, feeling in yourself.
It did.
And there's so much to unpack in that. I've still got this visual of a 5-year-old mini Nagel running around the church just wreaking havoc, asking questions of adults that they did not want to answer. What do you advise people who are constantly worrying that there won't be enough in order to shift that pattern? Like that fear of money is so strong that they're always worried about lack. They're living in lack, and they want to believe abundance, but they just don't see it showing up in their life.
Well, here's part of the problem. How are they raised in respect to, cause and effect of money coming into their life? Because if your parents worked for somebody else, it's not that it's a bad thing, but just think about this. Your parents work for somebody else. They have a skill set. They go to work every day to give this skill set, and then their employer gives them a check at the end of the week. A big part of it is also staying in the good graces of that employer so you don't lose your job, right? So that check that a person is getting every single week for the entire time that they're working for this person is very volatile. It's based on a lot of different things. If I don't do that job right, I don't get a check. If I lose good graces with the boss, I don't get a check. If somebody comes in who's better, will do it cheaper, I don't get a check. There's so many things that we hear about this, and the underlying idea is I'm not in control of the money coming in. Somebody else could take this away from me at any moment in time. So we're not learning from a cause and effect perspective of how do we actually manifest money in our life. That's the first thing to understand. The second thing to understand is there is an actual way, based on cause and effect, to learn how to bring money into your life regardless of what anybody else thinks of you. And when you learn that practice, you're no longer locked into the idea that there's not enough. Because the idea that there's not enough is really rooted in somebody else is in control of the money that I'm making, right? As long as that's true, then yes, you are in a very vulnerable position. But when that's no longer true for you because you've learned something different and you're in control of those decisions and how it happens, you're not susceptible to somebody else making a decision that says you can't make it, earn money or earn as much as you want anymore.
The interesting thing about the laws is there's 7 basic universal laws that really everything in the universe operates according to these laws. And the way that it plays a role in the human experience is it is literally a way for us to think based on how the universe works. Most people are raised and taught how to think based on lack conditions and experiences from people that did not understand how the universe actually operates. And then the modus operandi of the universe is more life. It is to continue to expand life, to create life, and life actually helping life continue to move forward. If you were raised by someone who did not understand that and they worked very hard for a living,
They experienced the human challenges only without any further teaching. They didn't understand how the universal laws work, so they operate by man-made laws that are designed just to help us survive as human beings, but they're very limited in the scope of what they can do and how they can provide for you. So the idea is that once you understand these laws and you can literally integrate them into your thinking so that everything that you think about is coming from first the basis of how does it pertain to these laws, and then think about it from a creative perspective and an abundant perspective, not a lack perspective, then you literally can design a life that you absolutely love. And you can do whatever you want because you're not coming from the perspective of lack. You're coming from a higher understanding of how the universe works and how it actually affects each and every one of us as we go through our lifetime.